Okay. Chapter 9. What King Eyes? Captain Gabriel Archambault marched into the hospital and down the hallways until he came to a white door with 2 guards outside. He nodded to them as he opened the door and entered the room. Over many years, his desire for adventure and action had been replaced with acceptance of a much mundane world. Time had traded his slim, muscular body for a fat belly, a big bald spot, and a bit of a hunch. Even his gray mustache seemed to have gained weight. The room was crowded and noisy. "Who are all these people?" yelled an annoyed Gabriel to everyone. "All of you! If you don't have to be here at this moment, get out!" Everyone stopped in surprise and looked at him. Most of them immediately left. 3 guards, a doctor, and a nurse remained. "What's the story?" Gabriel asked them, annoyed that he'd had to come all the way down to the hospital to find out. It had already been a long day, and the last thing he wanted was to spend time in the house of sick people, as he often called it. A sergeant stepped forward. "Captain Archambault," he said, saluting. Captain Archambault tried not to roll his eyes at the salute. He was not in a patient mood. "Did we get Lulu?" he asked hopefully. "Lulu is over there, sir," answered the sergeant, pointing to a hospital bed partially obscured by the doctor and nurse. "He's not going anywhere, sir." Gabriel glanced over at the 2 occupied hospital beds. The sergeant continued. "He took a pretty serious pounding from one of those Koshin brothers." "Are we laying charges?" asked Gabriel, concerned. He wondered if he would have to reveal his relationship with the brothers. "I wasn't planning on it, sir," said the sergeant, shaking his head. "Good, but I think you need to correct your wording. If someone were to assault someone else in this town, they would have to be charged. However, if someone fell on someone else, that would be a simple accident. So, are you saying that the Koshin brother fell on Monsieur Lelou?" "Yes, sir," said the sergeant, nodding to the new version of the events. "He fell. How unfortunate for Monsieur Lelou." "What about the other one?" asked Gabriel, nodding toward the second bed. "He died a half-hour ago, shot by Lelou at close range. There was nothing we could do for him, sir." The captain rubbed his chin. "Any witnesses?" The sergeant straightened up proudly. "We have many witnesses. The victim also lived long enough to tell me what happened. I'd arrived at the scene first, along with one of our other graduates." The captain nodded approvingly. "Okay," he said, unfolded his arms, and looked around. "Why, there's still a doctor and a nurse here. This man died, and Lelou just suffered injuries caused by someone falling on him." A young woman in guard uniform stepped forward and saluted the captain. "So that's because they just removed the bullet from Lelou's shoulder. I shot him before he took the pounding from Monsieur Koshin." The sergeant stepped between the woman and the surprised captain. "Sir, allow me to introduce one of our newest graduates. She only started this morning and has already started making a name for herself. Her name is Egelina Marie, Archambault." The captain glared at the sergeant. "Really? I know I look old, but do you think me a stupid old man who doesn't recognize his own daughter?" Sorry, sir," stammered the sergeant. Gabriel rolled his eyes before looking at his daughter. "Hello, love." "Captain," she replied professionally. Gabriel looked at the floor and mentally kicked himself. He'd done exactly what he told her not to do. Many times he'd say, "You can't call me Papa when you're on duty. You will need to call me Captain. I will be calling you by your rank or last name or both, the same as I do with everyone else." Yet here he was, the first time he ran into her, and he'd failed to follow his own advice. He thought back to an old conversation with Nikolas about rules and smiled. "Report, Archambault," the captain ordered, trying to look and sound official. "A young boy found us on patrol, sir. He claimed that lives were in danger, including that of Monsieur Klaus. We followed the boy and handled the situation." The sergeant was sweating bullets. "Sergeant?" asked Captain Archambault. He could sense that something wasn't being shared with him. The sergeant smiled awkwardly. The captain turned to his daughter, who gave him an all-too-familiar look. He knew then that something was bothering the sergeant, but his daughter didn't want him to be asking about it. She was handling it. Deciding to move on, Gabriel asked, "Why was Lelou shot?" "I arrived on the scene just as he was preparing to shoot Monsieur Klaus," Egelina Marie replied. Gabriel's eyes opened wide. "Then what happened?" The sergeant jumped in. "Sir, she shot him at distance at least 300 yards. She shot him precisely in the shoulder, making him drop his pistol just before he could execute Monsieur Klaus. Lelou fell to the ground immediately." Gabriel was beside himself in disbelief. He'd had no idea how skilled she was with rifles. His wife had kept Egelina Marie's secret to herself. 300 yards. That's near impossible. "I know, sir," said the sergeant. "What's more amazing is that she arrived on the scene and in 1 second realized what needed to be done, then took the shot. She shot from a standing position." The captain looked at his daughter in amazement. "A snapshot?" Egelina Marie smiled. "You've been calling me Ig the crack shot. Not bad for my first day, sir." Gabriel beamed with pride. "Not bad." Then he violated a few more pieces of his own advice and gave her a big hug. "You saved a very good man today, Egelina Marie. A very good man." I know, Papa, I know, she said, hugging him back. Egelina Marie had left one thing out. When she and Nicholas had pulled Bacon off Lelou, she had for the briefest moment exchanged a glance with Bacon, and ever since, she couldn't get him out of her mind. All right, thank you very much for joining us. I'll be continuing in a moment here with Licking Wounds, which should be available tomorrow.